Sanvanani Dumilang, good evening and welcome to episode 320 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Khumalo. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the only daily property podcast in the country, helping you make better property decisions. Make sure that you go to our Facebook or our YouTube page to catch up on all the great content that you have already missed out on. Doesn't matter where you are on your property journey, whether you're renting, you're looking to buy, to sell, or to build, we've certainly covered it all on the show. And to all our regular viewers on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram, welcome to it. You know how we do. Every single weekday, you and I are in conversation at 7 p.m. We're always having a conversation, with a property expert who helps us make better property decisions. And we certainly love learning from each other. One of the great things that a lot of you know from the Top Fan gang members, and of course to many of you at home who always show us some love, is that we love the family that we're creating, the community that we're creating, and certainly love learning from each other. And talking about learning from each other and the community that we're building, you also know that we are running our competition on our Facebook page as we count down to 1 million followers on our Facebook page. So 1 million likes on Facebook, and that is a great countdown that we are doing and running a great competition where you stand a chance of walking away with 500 Rand cash right here on the Private Property Podcast with myself, Khumalo. And all you have to do to stand a chance of walking away with that 500 rands in cash is make sure you engage with our page as much as possible. Certainly give us a review on our Facebook page, tag your friends on some of our posts, share some of the lives that we have, whether it's the show or the other shows, and of course continue showing us some love, whether you're sending us those green hearts down here below. The more you interact and engage with us, the higher your odds of winning. And of course, if you want to make sure that you win the money, you also need to be tuned in every single evening at 7 p.m. We announce the winner halfway through the show, and the winner needs to message us down here below in order to claim their prize. If you don't message us, unfortunately, you forfeit the prize and it rolls over into the money bag for the following day. Now, yesterday's 500 rands rolled over, and this evening we have 1,000 rands in the money bag. I do hope whoever gets chosen halfway through the show is watching and they're going to be claiming their prize. Well, that's some of the great ways that you can engage with us and, of course, stand a chance of walking away with some cash. This evening, we're having a conversation that I'm very excited about. But before we get to that conversation, you know that the other great shows that you can tune into across Private Property's social media pages are, of course, the First Time Home Buyers Show that you can catch every single Wednesdays at 8 p.m., where Essie Clarkson is always in conversation with first-time homeowners who have gone on to grow their property portfolios from strength to strength. And as it is a Tuesday, you can catch award-winning farmer Mbali Nwoko later on this evening at 8 p.m. on the Farming Podcast. And she comes to your screens on Thursdays as well at the same time. And every Mondays and Fridays, you can look forward to the Home Shoppers Show with Chad, where he's always taking us through incredible homes that you can find on www.privateproperty.co.za. But those are the great shows that you can tune into every single evening at 8 p.m. So do make sure that you continue sharing the lives, whether it's this one, of course, the other shows, and of course, engaging with us so that you can stand a chance of walking away with that cash prize. But going on to this evening's conversation, I'm very excited about this one, and I'm excited about it because this is one of those things that very easily helps you see if you are dealing with a property professional who knows their things, if you're dealing with a property investor who knows their stuff, because it really is about the rands and cents. And rands and cents are not a thing that we thumbsuck. We use data to come up with the amounts that we tend to charge. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking at this evening. We're looking at how to price your property right. Whether you have a rental property, you've just bought a rental property, and you're still not quite sure how you should be going about pricing for your rental property. And of course, the big one, because so many people are offloading some of their assets, perhaps you're downscaling or upgrading, or want a different kind of asset type. We're seeing a lot of people selling, and the reality of selling your property is more often than not, you're going to be a first-time seller. You're going to probably buy more times than you sell. So you really never really get an opportunity to fine-tune your selling skills, unless, of course, you're in the buying to flip business. But a lot of us tend to not be in that space. So understanding how you price your property right is so crucial, and to help us get a better sense of what we should do and what we should also avoid doing when we want to adequately price our property. I'm joined this evening by Nondumiso, Mthwa, who's the CEO at Idwala Property Group. Nondumiso, Sawubona, thank you so much for joining us this evening on the show.
Sawubona, good evening, Zama. I'm very happy to be here, and good evening to all our viewers.
It's always so great having you on the show, Nondumiso. I think one of the great things is one of the things about our conversation this evening is a lot of sellers, and I've even seen this with, different people I've interacted with, different viewers at home who are looking to sell their property. Some of them are in financial distress, and others just want to be able to upgrade. They're thinking, look, I can now afford a bigger house, and I want to be able to upgrade. But of course, they don't know how to adequately price for it. And before we look at the selling side, I actually want us to spend a little bit of time on the rental side, because we've also seen that due to the historically low interest rates, we're seeing people who bought investment properties, and some didn't first do the research of pricing their rental property. They kind of took advantage of being able to buy, and only now need to make a decision around what to charge and how to charge it. When we look at our investment properties, and so when you're pricing for rental, what are some of the key things that we need to bear in mind before we even say this is the advertised amount and you place your ad on privateproperty.co.za?
All right. Firstly, it's very important to understand that the rental income of your property, it must be comparable to all the other, properties in the area. You cannot say, oh, because my bond repayment is 10,000 Rand, now I must ask for a rental of 10,000 Rand. That's a R1 million property. So generally, as a rule of thumb, if your bond is 10,000 Rand and your rental income is around 7,000, which is 70% of your repayment, you actually have a good investment. So it's very important to understand that you don't look at your bond repayment and then price it according to your bond repayment. But if you can cover 70% of that bond repayment, you're well on your way. You've actually done a good investment. So it's very important to know the rental market in your area and price according to the market and not according to your expenses, so that you can be a fair owner who's able to compare competitively with the other properties in your area.
And that's such an important thing to note, Nondumiso. And I know a lot of property coaches, for example, that we've had, and property investors that we've had on the show, typically say that you want to be at the very least making sure that your rental property pays for itself in its entirety from day one. But ideally, it should be making a profit from day one, even if it's making 50 rands. And the reality of those kinds of deals for, I'll say, ordinary people who are probably going to buy, for example, in a sectional title community, is that it simply just does not happen for the most part, right? Yeah. Some people are able to get those great deals, and get a steal and be able to somehow perhaps buy a 2-bed in Joburg and at auction, exactly. But for the most part, if you're buying it, from, let's say, a private property and it's been listed, even the seller has listed it at a certain amount, and they've also done their research that, of course, we're going to get to in a bit. So it becomes so important then that when you are, a landlord or you're setting that price, that you understand all the factors that you need to consider and the
levies. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, when you even mention levies, Nondumiso, a part of me, I was having a conversation about levies and just how, continuously escalating, and it makes it that much harder to, get the yield that you want, because you would have projected X amount of yield and then levies keep increasing. And so I think the really key thing when it comes to setting the rental price, as Nondumiso has pointed out, is you're not setting it based on your expenses. And when you understand that, before you even buy, it actually helps you, because then you're able to say, when you are viewing, actually, this property, I'm going to have to put in too much money, and I don't want to put in that much money. So when you understand that from the get-go, it helps quite significantly. I want to find out from the viewers at home, if you have a rental property, are you topping it up in any way? And of course, I'm referring to a financed, rental property. Are you topping it up at all? Or, is the rental amount that you're charging servicing the whole, expense of the property, where, you're able to pay for the bond and the levies and the rates and taxes? How did you go about running your numbers for your rental, especially during COVID, where we've seen that a lot of landlords have had to, make adjustments to what they're asking for rent, or certainly not have rental escalation. So if you're a landlord out there, you have a rental property, do share with us if your rental amount covers, all the associated expense of that property, or you have to top up. And if you top up, what's the percentage that you top up with? So that's quite a big one for, setting the right price for rental. Right now, it really is a renter's market. There are certain areas where I'm like, you previously were probably charging 15,000 rands for rental, especially if we look at Joburg North, you're now able to get the same units for 9,000 rands. So you really need to be careful when you set your rental prices as a landlord. And Nondumiso, before we even get to, the selling side and how you best price that, I actually want to, I see that we've got quite a bit of love from our viewers at home this evening who are sending us all the green hearts on our Facebook page as they are watching us live. We've got Selani Pillay, we've got Uposha Maile, Noninkuta, I see you. Evans Kabelo Nimaputi, I also see you hashtagging there, the live podcast and private property. And Miguel Tumeleng Rustenberg, that's the first time I'm seeing your name. Certainly looking forward to seeing more of your name. And another one whose name I'm seeing for the first time on our Facebook page is Upulani Komoyasera. That's also another first timer on my side. So do continue showing us some love on our Facebook page. whether you're sending us the green hearts, or of course, if you own a rental property, let us know if the rental that you're charging is able to cover all the expenses for the property, or you have to top it up. And if you top it up, what's the percentage that you are topping up with? I wanted to go for a quick break and see who the potential lucky winner, and I only say potential because they need to claim their prize for our 1 million followers on our Facebook page is going to be. I hope you're watching so you can claim your prize. We want to give this R1,000 away, and let's see who tonight's winner possibly is.
Okay.
And that lucky winner is Baba Asuwo. Baba Asuwo, you are this evening's winner. You have until the end of the show to claim your prize. So do make sure that you drop us a message down here below, and the 1,000 Rand in cash is all yours. And of course, if you want to be just like him, all you have to do is continue engaging with our page on Facebook, where you can share the lives, you can tag your friends, leave us with a great review, and of course, certainly continue showing us some love during the live podcast. And if your name is called up on the show, make sure you text us before the end of the live, and that is how you get to claim that 500 Rands in cash. In the event where the winner doesn't claim their prize, the money rolls over into the money bag for the following day. So certainly making the money back bigger. And by the time whoever claims their prize, comes on board, they're going to get quite a bit of money. Well, our conversation this evening, we are looking at how to price your property right with Nondumiso Mthwa, who's the CEO at Idwala Prop. And before that property group, and before that break, I asked you at home, if you have a rental property, how do you go about sort of setting the price for it? Does the rental cover the whole expenses associated with that property, or do you have to top up? And if you do top up, what is the percentage that you top up with? And going to some of the comments on our Facebook page, we've got Uponzo and Zinye, who's one of our top fans, saying, my mother's property covers everything. The house pays for itself, and we still get to eat from it because of the back rooms in the yard. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love this one, because I think it really looks at Izindlu Zasekhaya as an asset, and that we're able to use it as an income generator, where you could be living in Lini and there are back rooms, and you're able to rent out those back rooms, and they don't just cover expenses, but it also becomes an income that the family can use. So it's a big game changer for those of us who either grow up Ekasi or have properties Ekasi or have family who have property Ekasi, that if you are able to save up a bit of money and put really nice rooms in Mthwa, especially as we're seeing more and more modernized back rooms in townships, that you're able to have an income for yourselves and your family. Thank you so much for sharing there, Bonzo, about your mother's property. And we've got Chanel Ferry. Chanel saying that we rent and it goes up to 7% each year. I guess the yield, 7% is not too bad, especially in this market. I think a 7% yield is really not too bad. I know that some investors want, double-digit yield, but we also know that it's not the easiest to sometimes get in certain markets. So it really does vary in terms of how different people, solve for it. Now, Nondumiso, I want us to then look at selling, because the selling one, so many people are finding themselves right now being first-time sellers, and you very well may not have been a first-time buyer. Maybe it's, you already have 3 properties in your portfolio, and you're now wanting to offload, one of them or 2 of them for to upgrade, or because you're in financial distress. When we're looking at pricing for a property that we want to sell, what are some of the key things that we first need to look at before we even, set that price and put up an ad on private property?
Okay, thank you, Zama. Just going back a little on that rental space, just a little comment. What we have found, because of the lowered interest rates, you find that a person on their million rand bond, before the drop in the interest rates, they were paying 10,000 rand on their bonds. Then the interest rates go down, they're paying 8,000 rand. 8,000 Rand now. So we are finding more and more people are actually able now to kind of cover their bond. So really, the interest rates have done quite a bit of justice in terms of bond repayments and people being able to meet their bond repayments with the rental income. So yeah, that was just one comment there that I just thought, let me add. Now about selling, there's so many dynamics when it comes to selling, but I can never stress enough the importance of pricing correctly, especially in the current market, because if you do not price your property correctly, it's going to stay on the market. And there is so much, especially for people in a market where there's so much properties for sale, your property, number one, has to stand out. And not only does it stand out, people are able to compare, especially now we've got platforms like your private property, where everybody will see, oh, a 3-bedroom in this area, it goes for 1.5. A 4-bedroom in this area goes for 2 million. So automatically, if you are not well priced, you eliminate yourself from the market. So, based on those things, it's very important to actually get on board a property professional who can be able to assist you with a comparative market analysis, of the area. And also, if I could just stress that just because you see your neighbor has got their property on for 2 million, it doesn't mean they will sell it for 2 billion. So don't price your property according to what is on for sale. Price it according to don't price it according to the listing price, like a property is listed for this much, but rather price it what has it sold for, because someone may overprice their property at 2 million and maybe it's worth 1.5 million. And I'm going to say, oh, but Zama, her property is on the market for 2 million, so I'm going to put mine for 2 million. What we need to make sure we understand, how much will Zama sell her property for? So whenever you do a comparison, in terms of correctly pricing, you need to look at what has sold in the area versus what is on the market, because a property can stay on the market for a whole year and not sell. Therefore, you cannot base your price on that. And also, if I may just say, buyers right now are very informed, especially the millennials. They do their homework, they search, they look, social media, they look platforms, portals everywhere. So they are very, very informed. So you cannot go and determine the value of your property by how much your debt. Say, oh no, but I'm owing SARS and I'm owing, this and that. That doesn't determine the value of your property. What determines the value of your property are the current market tendencies. What is happening in the market? And the value of your property, it's not even determined by, oh, but I want to go and buy in such and such an area, and houses are expensive in such and such an area. That cannot determine the value of your home. So it's a lot of things that are involved. But the long and the short of the matter is that you have to, your property, if you want it to sell at a good price, it has to be, if you want it to sell at a good price, it actually has to be put on the market at a good price. Because if you overprice, you shoot it off there, it's going to stay on the market. And as time goes on, the buyers are just going to look, oh my, 6 months later, this house is still on. Either there's something wrong with this house, or they start to think probably the seller's desperate. And you know what happens when they think you're desperate? They bring the ridiculous offers, even worse than what you would have gotten if you had priced your property correctly. So we can never stress enough, the importance of pricing correctly from the get-go.
Nondumiso, you've actually given us so much to chew on. I think the first big one is you understanding the risk of not pricing well as a seller, and of course there's homework that you will do, and certainly the estate agent that you're going to be working with is going to bring you a pack saying, look, they typically will value your property and they'll say that this is their recommended price that I think you should put it on the market. And I think one of the big things that we like emphasizing and that I also, always share is that you want to work with the area specialists because then they know that area intimately. They've probably just sold 2 other properties, in your same area. So they really have a good sense of your area. So don't just work with somebody who covers 20 different suburbs that are in different parts of, Gauteng. They don't have an intimate understanding of the particular suburb that they're working with. So get an area specialist because they'll be able to tell you that, they've actually got 4 other properties in the area. 2 of them have recently sold. This is, how much it was listed for, and they were able to get this. So they'll be able to be upfront with you. And the big thing as a seller, as Nondumiso points out, is you can't want to set the price based on I still need to pay, SARS or vala iskoloto estile or whatever the case is, because you can't bank on that. The market unfortunately doesn't work on that. Doesn't work like that, and you run the risk if you don't adequately price of your property staying on the market for too long. Nobody wants to entertain stale stock. We're already talking about how much there's just an oversupply of stock. The moment I see properties that have been on the market, even for longer than 6 months, I also start wondering, okay, what's wrong here? What is happening? I mean, there are certain properties that have been on the market for over 2 years. Some that I track have been in the market for over 4 years, and they keep changing agencies to list with them. So you also see that this is an unreasonable seller and just the price already tells you that this is ridiculous, right? That it's not comparable with what's happening with other properties. So you really want to get a sense of where the market is before you even look at your own financial considerations. Where is the market, and is the price that you're going to set, in line with where the market is? And the other really great thing Nondumiso, highlighted is don't look at your neighbors. Don't keep up with Khumalo. They listed for 3 million. I'm their neighbor. Name, I want to list for 3 million. They can list for the 3M, but it only gets sold for 2, and you didn't go the extra step of actually finding out how much it's sold for, and you'll go and list for 3M thinking, hey, but next door therefore nami kwami kuzothengwa. So it's really important not to play keeping up with the Khumalos. We're taking your questions and comments on our Facebook page, of course, as well as on our Instagram and our YouTube page this evening, as I'm in conversation with Nondumiso Mthwa, who's the CEO at Idwala Property Group, as we look at how to price your property right, especially for people who are looking to sell, and of course if you're also looking to rent, understanding how you should adequately price your property. If you're a serious seller, this is a great market to sell. There are buyers, they're qualifying and they're buying. So you really do need to be a serious seller who sets the price right. Going to your comments at home, we've got saying, I always say that people who invest in townhouses don't get enough to cover everything. Should be established investors with the other properties that have profits to cover the shortfalls. Borrowing from Peter to give to Paul, I don't know. I like looking at every property as almost its own individual business, because then you're able to adequately see whether you're making a profit or a loss. But if the other one, let's say the one is a student accommodation, unit, and you have net yield of 20%, and another one is just, as you're saying, in a complex, and your yield is at 6%, or it's even running at a loss. You need to be able to identify which of your properties is doing well, which is not doing well, and are you going to offload the ones that are doing well, or are you going to, be okay with, subsidizing for it? Because really, the perhaps for you the strategy with it is capital accumulation as opposed to it being a cash flow property. So I would discourage having a principle of borrowing from Peter to give to Paul. I mean, you really do want to get a sense of your individual properties and how they are performing before you kind of move the money around. And another comment here on our Facebook page coming through from Umenzi Butelezi saying that the minimum is 1% of the cost of the apartment, and I'm currently charging slightly more, and the payment covers everything. And that was, of course, to the earlier question of, if you have a rental property, is the rental amount covering everything? And if it's not, how much do you subsidize it for? And another comment coming through from Usemi Mahlanze saying, multi-lets are assisting me a lot. Phil Nell Park is not doing very well and is assisted by Soshanguve House. I never thought something like that can happen, but pandemic has changed things around. But for now, I'm surviving. Hopefully in the coming year, things can change to be better. And you've got another great comment there coming through from Umadze Mkhotlane saying, awesome show today. Thank you very much there, Madze. So I think, Nondumiso, we're certainly getting a sense that we need to be on top of how we price, especially selling, right? Because when you're selling in this market, especially for people perhaps who might even be, distressed sellers or are potentially about to be distressed, and really are preemptively saying, I'd rather offload this than wait until izinto zibhede. I think what tips would you give? What tips would you give people who are in a particularly financially difficult, situation, who, as we were pointing out earlier, are probably calculating based on ikoloto as opposed to calculating based on, where the market is, Konamanje?
Let me start with those who are offloading and who can afford to offload yet are thinking about their debts. There is just what should I say? A slight misconception that sellers have. Let's talk about a normal seller now who hasn't got financial strain. You'll find a seller says, "Oh, you know what? I'm looking for 1.5 million for this property. Now this agent is saying this property is worth 1.3. Let me do 100,000 rand bathroom so that at least I can bump it up, or whatever the case may be." What I'm trying to say is that doing a certain renovation for a certain amount will not warrant you raising a price by that certain amount. Rather try and stick to renovations that add value to the property. So in other words, let's say putting expensive aircons, don't put an expensive aircon, put expensive aircon 50,000 and then expect that the value is going to jump up. Rather invest on renovations, maybe something like a garage, do a garage, renovate your bathrooms, try and stick to renovations that are within fair value so that you don't fall into a trap of overpricing. Because what you find with sellers, they say, "Oh no, but why are you telling me 1.5? These aircons cost me 50,000 rand." But you see, those are cosmetics. And putting a 50,000 rand aircon and a 10,000 rand aircon, it might not be, it might not be value for money for a buyer. So we need to be very careful with renovations. Just because your appliances you put in your kitchen, "Oh no, but these are 150,000 rand appliances. So I'm raising my property above market value. I'm raising it above the ceiling because of my appliances." So we need to be very, very, very careful when it comes to renovations. Rather do renovations, like I'm saying, that are value for money, that people will value. "Oh my, there is a garage, there is a carport," things like that are more substantial. And then also, when it comes to those who are selling because of, financial distress, they fell into financial difficulties. You tend to find that sometimes the property is not in the cheapest of forms, it's not in the best of conditions. Sometimes there's been a strain, there's been a struggle, things are not as it was. It's not like in its prime days, in its heydays. So small things that can help you to increase the value of your home. I think we've discussed it with you before, when we spoke about maybe you could look at a lick of paint for your property rather, because you obviously won't afford anything as expensive. Look at those falling cupboards, what's falling, what's skew, put back those screws, tidy it up, clean the house, make sure that the yard, it's cut. Look at your bathrooms, the mold, it's very small things that can actually kind of zhuzh up the value of your property without you having to spend so much to actually get to actually make it appealing to the potential buyers. So also another thing, we are finding that there's a lot of properties that are going on into the market, as much as there are also a lot of buyers coming in as well. There's a lot of properties coming on into the market. So there is a thing where you really have to make your property stand out. And especially if you're an urgent seller, make your property stand out, make sure it's priced correctly, so that there is an incentive for our very informed generation of buyers to actually, say, what, this one stands above the rest. Make sure you do things that will justify your price. Try and make sure that, okay, you know what, it's not as fancy, but it's so clean, it's well looked after, it's a stable, it's stable, it's clean. And people are able to see more potential in a clean home than in an untidy home. So there are things that don't need money for you to actually, make your home more appetizing. Just cleanliness, more care, here and there, touch-ups, and you're well on your way.
And I think that's such a great way to wrap our conversation, Nondumiso. The big thing there is, do not overcapitalize. It's such a big one. You're not going to suddenly add 200,000 rands worth of value to your property in an area, for example, where the price cap is a certain amount. So you really need to be on top of that. And I know a lot of people, as Nondumiso has pointed out, think that if I renovate and put expensive finishes in a certain area, therefore I'm going to get 100,000 rands more, except that area doesn't charge that kind of amount. So we really, really need to be careful when you're doing renovations that you do not overcapitalize. I see this mistake a lot. I think we tend to be okay with it if it's our primary residence, because we know we're staying there. We want the nice, fancy finishes. But if you know that it's not a place that you're going to be staying at for an extended period of time, or that you're going to be selling it, you really do need to watch your renovations. We've got the last two comments before we wrap up the show. Sammy Mahlanza coming back saying, yeah, renovations that add value than putting in things that will make a property to look nice and don't add value to the price tag. And Umadze Mkhutlane saying, thank you for this insightful information on Nondumiso, hashtag 1 million followers. And that's, of course, the competition that we are running on our Facebook page as we count down to 1 million followers. So do make sure that you engage with us and you stand a chance of walking away with cash prize every single day. Unfortunately, this evening's winner did not claim their prize. Ubaba Usuo did not claim the prize, and so the money rolls over tomorrow evening. It's going to be 1,500 rands. So make sure if you've liked, shared, given us a review, watch the show live, because if we call your name, you need to text us before we leave. Nondumiso, it's always such a pleasure to have you on the show. Siyabonga for being with us. Have yourself a great evening.
Thank you so much, Zama. Have a good one yourself. Thank you for having me.
And that is Nondumiso Mthwa, who's the CEO at Idwala Property Group, wrapping up the Tuesday edition of the Private Property Podcast with myself, Khumalo. I'll be back on your screens tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. It is a Tuesday, so you can catch award-winning farmer Umbalinwako coming to your screens at 8 p.m. with the Farming Podcast. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.